Hey, but it's okay, but it's just.
Or you go back to the drawing board and then you say, okay, yeah, sorry about all the mistakes that we made before. I mean, that,
He's gonna probably be his time machine.
sure, but if people feel that way, I mean.
All right, good evening. It's after 7 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of Wooster City Council being held this evening, November 3rd, 2025. We are here in council chambers. The meeting's also live streamed on YouTube. And our next regularly scheduled meeting will be November 17th, 2025. With that, Ms. Hamilton, will you please call the roll of the council members?
Mr. Abernathy.
Here.
Mr. Gaffney.
Here.
Mr. Huzay.
Here.
Ms. Knappich.
Here.
Mr. Malta.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Warden.
Here.
We have a quorum, and the agenda will remain as it is. The only change that we will have in the agenda is we will probably, barring any specific conversation related to ordinances or items 1 through 7, we'll probably read those all at one time and then discuss them, since they are basically different parcels, but the same, it's all related to the TIF. So from that standpoint, to save any unnecessary duplicity in conversation. And with that, I ask you to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion from council to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Abernathy, seconded by Ms. Knappich. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Communications from the mayor administration. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Reynolds.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members. Just first a little recap of things that have gone on since in the last 2 weeks when we last met. The 21st of October, we had our every other month managers meeting. Got updates from all the various departments. That same day, we had an executive committee meeting of the Worcester Growth Corporation in anticipation or planning for our upcoming meeting on November 20th of the full board. So Worcester Growth hasn't had a lot going on in recent months, and we're now, I think, ready to move forward with a couple projects. So we'll be back to you following that meeting. October 22nd, the directors and I took Mr. Paul out to breakfast. Enjoyed doing that, and I assume we'll be doing that again in the next few weeks once we know who our Ward 4 council person is. So I look forward to that, an opportunity for us to get to know them a little better and them to know us a little better. That same day, there was a public hearing at the Wayne County Commissioner's Office as part of that annexation process for the Graham Farm, and Jonathan and I attended that. That hearing went very well. There was one neighbor there that expressed just concern about stormwater runoff if and when it was developed, and that's obviously a legitimate concern and one that would be addressed in the planning stage as it goes through there. And again, it wasn't a vote on it. Jonathan, do we know when a vote's going to be scheduled on that?
We would anticipate either this weekend or next.
Okay. They meet weekly, so they've got a statutory time frame that they're required to act on it within. So, if that is approved by the commissioners, it'll come back to City Council for final action. And only after council acts on it at the very end does it come in or not. That was a busy day. That same day, there was a groundbreaking event at the Village Network. You may have seen it right up in the paper for a short-term residential cottage. Seemed like that was a very specific need that they've identified in the area. And obviously, it's only one cottage, so you're talking about a limited number of spaces, but it's a start. The 23rd, we had our quarterly meeting with the Wayne Economic Development Council. That went well. The evening of the 24th, I was at the Douglas Hall grand opening at the College of Worcester, a nice event. A lot of people of my era there because it was trustees and donors, so a lot of gray hairs and no hairs. Saturday morning, the 25th, United Way held their Heart and Ghoul event down on the square. I think there were some council members there I saw with kids or grandkids. Again, another nice event. That night was the Worcester Bulls hockey team home opener. We do have a hockey team back in town. As I understand, they are semi-pro is the definition as opposed to a minor league, but so they're independent, but nice event. I was asked to drop the puck, shared that privilege with the Nobles, and had quite a bit of fun with that. Unfortunately, it meant missing the Mitch Ryder concert, which was another nice event. Hopefully you read or heard something about that. We got a lot of nice coverage in the press about that. Leaf pickup season's underway. Coincidentally, so is insurance open enrollment. I attended the first meeting, and hats off to our HR department. They did a great job of explaining it. My wife was with me. At the end of the meeting, she had no questions, which is like a mark of excellence. So I told Jeanette that she passed the highest bar at that point. And then we had a WARCOG meeting on the 28th, and our 2026 budget was approved without much discussion. It was pretty even-keeled meeting. That same night, I attended a voting engagement event put on by the College of Worcester at Lowry Center. Nice little event. I'm not sure we had any council people there, but I know we had some candidates there and some other people interested. So the 29th, we had Citizens Academy graduation, and I know Joel will be talking more about that in a second. Also had the representative Max Miller was in town, and we got to give him a tour of that. It's coming along. I think by the time we get to it in December, it's going to be very close to finished. And then on Friday afternoon, went out to PPM for a retirement party for Jerry Martin. A lot of you know Jerry, he's retiring after 25 years with the city, so wishing him all the best going forward. And just today, Andrea brought it, or two reports came in that I want to pass along. Andrea reported that our bed tax receipts through October surpassed all of 2024 receipts, which obviously guarantees that we'll have the highest bed tax receipts ever this year. And then John Rice confirmed that Silver Road is open for business. So if you've been down there, it looks great, not just Silver Road, but also the multi-use trail that runs along Venture Boulevard. Looking forward, tomorrow is Election Day. If you haven't voted already, please make sure to do so. On Thursday, the Wooster City Schools Business Advisory Council is going to meet, and there'll be an interesting discussion post-election on their plans moving forward. On the same day, we have a GOBA meeting. That's the Great Ohio Bicycle Adventure. We'll have more details about timing, what their plans are. This is not just on the path, but they want to stay here at night. So we'll see what they've got in line then. Then the 11th, obviously Veterans Day. A number of things going on that day. I have breakfast with Dr. McCall scheduled from the College of Worcester that day. There's a Veterans Day program at the Rotary Club I'll be a part of, and there's the Worcester High School band, or I'm not sure if it's symphonic or concert, maybe both, has a Veterans Day concert at 1 p.m. up to the high school. The 13th, having lunch with Gabe Tudor. That's our regular monthly luncheon. The 17th of November, we're having a swearing-in ceremony for Worcester PD. I think Joel reported last time about the advancements we've had, and with each of those advancements, it creates a whole, and as part of that process, we'll be doing a swearing-in of 4 or 5 individuals who advanced a rank there. And then finally, I know this is a little further out, but Window Wonderland is going to be here before you know it, November 21st. So that, Joel, some things?
Sure, maybe not quite as big as Silver Road, but in our update, I mentioned that the South Market and South Street streetscape was wrapping up. It's essentially done. I think the construction fence was still up, but they're just doing some minor punch list items right now, so that'll be done any day now, so that'll be nice. Christmas Run Pool, we had a couple meetings with our designer, and that should be going out to bid again either this week or next week, so that'll be out to bid. And then leaf pickup has started, so if anybody watching from home wants to know when the leaf pickup will be coming, all of those schedules are on our website, so please go there and look that up. This November 6th, this week, will be the public hearing on the zoning code and map amendments we've been working on for over a year now. So those were submitted and a presentation was given at the last meeting. Then they're gonna have their public hearing at this meeting, and then hopefully at the next meeting, they'll be ready to give a recommendation to council. Also in our update last week, we mentioned the downtown grants, those facade grants we've been doing for 4 years now. So we've been doing about $25,000 a year. We've only just got into the 2025 money, but at a little over $75,000 in grants over those 3.5, 4 years, there's been over $900,000 total investment downtown in facades and other things. So that's been a really well-received and well-used program downtown. Bob mentioned the Citizens Government Academy, Leadership Academy. We just had we just finished that up last week. I gave you one little bit of feedback we got from that, and I got another one that was just about as good today. I might share that maybe in an upcoming one, but it's just a really good group of people, citizens, people that work here, some aspiring elected officials who are in a class, and so that's just been a really good class, and we get a lot of good feedback. The last class is really good because we just ask questions from the comp plan on current issues, and there's a lot of good discussion. So I included we asked those right before the end, and then we include those in that last session. So I attached that last session that had the results of that for you to look at, and we compare that to the last time we asked the same questions in our comp plan, so you can see. I know it's a small sample size, but it's still good feedback, and just to talk through with people from the community. And one last item, I don't know if Andre is going to say something, but next meeting will be the budget for 2026 will be submitted. And at the same time, if you remember back a couple of years ago, we passed legislation that allocated bed tax to 75% to our partners, and then 25% for grants downtown. So that 2 years is up, so we'll need to have legislation presented at the same time for you to consider on that as well. That's all I have.
Okay, just a quick few comments on the agenda. Just one item of new business that will require 3 readings or a suspension of the rules. It does need to be passed, it does need to be passed by the end of November, so there is a sense of urgency to it. It does not need to be passed tonight. The 7 items on second reading also are not time sensitive, except in the sense that if we don't exercise our ability to do a TIF on at least some of these properties, we will not be able to do so at a later date. It's a use it or lose it opportunity. Finally, I want to give just a brief recap. The discussion at last week's meeting got a little fractured when it came to the city's use of tax incentives and TIFs, which are 2 different things. I wanted to give just a brief summary of those real quickly. And again, this is as much for the public here and at home as it is for council members. But a tax incentive is a temporary delay in tax increases used to incentivize investment in targeted areas. These are generally referred to as tax abatements and have been used by the city of Worcester strategically and intentionally in designated areas to incentivize growth and investment. Most common of these are designated as community reinvestment areas, which are CRA projects, although we also have a few enterprise zones, which are EZ projects. Probably the best example of the impact of these tax incentives in our community can be seen in our downtown. What we have today in downtown Worcester is largely the result of several decades of the use of CRAs in that area. TIF is different. TIF is an acronym for tax increment financing. As Jonathan did such a good job of explaining in his memo, a TIF does not relieve the tax burden for either the developer or any future owner of the property. Instead, for a designated period of time, it allows a percentage of the newly created tax revenues to be used for infrastructure projects, while the remainder of the new revenues and 100% of the existing tax revenues goes to the schools. And in doing these infrastructure projects, the city of Worcester has a long history of paying only for those improvements that support development and allow that development to take place, and not the direct development costs that have always been the responsibility of the developer. We keep the Wooster City School District fully informed of all proposals for TIFs or tax abatements, although Ohio law does not require formal approval by the affected school district, so long as the amount of new revenue involved does not exceed 75%, and the TIF or abatement period does not exceed 10 years. For at least the last several years, the city and the school district have been united in their willingness to use these tools in a strategic manner. Both entities have recognized that used appropriately, CRAs and TIFs will result in increases in the tax base that in the long term will pay for the short-term sacrifices many times over. In addition, the infrastructure paid for with these funds makes new development possible. Since 2010, 20% of the Wooster City School District's new revenue has been generated by new construction. So in addition to adding to the quality of life for everyone living in, working in, or visiting Worcester, the local schools see a significant financial benefit from these infrastructure projects. There was a comment at our last meeting about the need for the administration to consider alternative revenue sources given the uncertainties over future funding. The administration wholeheartedly agrees. The legislation before you for a second reading is an attempt to do exactly that. It is a hedge against the potential loss of CDBG funds or inside millage. And much like applying for a grant, if this particular revenue source doesn't actually result in the funds we hope for in the future, we are no worse off than if we didn't apply for it in the first place. Keep in mind that when it comes to infrastructure projects, any funding that doesn't come from one of these alternative sources will come out of our general fund, which means it will be paid by all Wooster City taxpayers. For that reason, we always look to use the general fund last when it comes to these projects. I've only addressed the revenue side of the equation in these comments, and by that I mean how we work to obtain other sources of funding for projects. Equally as important is the expense side, which is when and how council decides those funds are to be used. That's a separate discussion, and I'll save my remarks on that for another meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Our next item this evening, we do have a liquor control request, which, Ms. Hamilton, if you want to enlighten us on that.
We received a liquor control request to transfer a D5I and D6 license from Ginza Restaurant Group to Asian Fusion Buffet LLC at 3729 Burbank Road, Worcester. And I finally did find what a D5I is, and it essentially means that you can serve alcohol at the restaurant in the glass, in the bottle, and then the D6 edition means you can do that on Sunday as well.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you. So with that, we have three options: to request a hearing, either in our county seat, either in Columbus, or to not request a hearing at all.
Did we come to the conclusion this is where Osaka was, and we think that this is just a transfer of liquor license?
You can't transfer it from the location only to another business at that same location.
Okay.
Yeah.
I motion to waive hearing.
Motion to waive hearing, second by Ms. Knappich. Do we need to do call roll?
Just voice votes.
All right. So all in favor of not having a hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Although in 12 years, I've never gotten to go to Columbus for a hearing.
No, we have not. No, we have not.
Let's not make these boys look.
Yeah, no. No. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Next item is communications from the public. We have three people that have signed up to discuss the next 7 items of our meeting, which are the TIF projects. The first individual is Mr. Hill. Want to take a stand at the podium there and let us know your thoughts, please.
Sure. Ted Hill at 735 Bell Avenue. Last meeting, I believe it was mentioned that the schools should weigh in on the TIFs projects if they care. I don't represent the school board, but it's my understanding that that isn't really possible, given certain legal mechanisms, that the only appropriate response is for the superintendent to say the reasons are technical, but I can't go into it right now. tax relief by offsetting it with an earned income tax, since property tax is a pain point for voters at this point. If the voters approve that offer, it will increase the income tax of residents in the city and make it harder for the city to raise monies in the future from income taxes. That increase in income tax from the schools may be inevitable, but what isn't is where the schools set that tax percentage. If they feel that their funding will be insecure due to short-term growth losses because tips are liberally applied, then they would do well to set that tax rate higher to give themselves their own security. And after that, if the voters come to feel that they are feeling more pain on income tax than they are on property taxes, it will come from the city's shares, not the schools. The school's share would be an earned income tax, and it would be tied to the property taxes that would be negated if the voters took it up. So reversion, the repealing of an income tax would revert the property taxes. The city's income tax doesn't work that way, so I imagine it will come for the city's funding. I think this would be a really easy thing to overlook, looking at any individual TIF project, so I thought that it needed to be mentioned. It's a very hidden cost. There isn't really any free money here. There's always some sort of consequence, and I would encourage the city to use the TIFs very sparingly, very carefully.
Thank you. Mr. Owens?
Everyone, Owens, 251 on Drive. So I have a few questions around the TIFs. First and foremost is, if we initiate a TIF, does it hard lock that money for that specific project? As much of the infrastructure that this wants to go towards has not been approved yet. So if we approve a TIF, but then later the project doesn't get approved by council, what happens to that money? Right? Is it locked? Is it gone? You know, what happens to it from there? And also, it has been mentioned that the school gets way more money in 10 years, but they have to make it 10 years, right? We already have a school system that can't get a new school built because they can't pass a levy. How much money are we going to redirect from them? I know, over 10 years, the goal is about $1.5 million, right? But that doesn't buy a school, but maybe it pays for a few teachers. Maybe it lets you shrink class sizes because you can hire new teachers, retain teachers. So I have concerns around that. Also, tomorrow we have an election where a majority of the school board is going to be on the ballot. We may have a whole new school board, and maybe it is worth waiting to have a conversation with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Last person that signed up was Ms. Nair.
I waited my turn, but thank you.
All righty.
Enough was said.
Okay. Well, we've had communications from the public. We have no committee reports. We have no public hearings. So we'll move on to unfinished business, which at this point we will do the same as we did last meeting, which we will have Ms. Hamilton endure the reading of 7 items, the first
You're
7
enduring
items that we
this.
have. And then we'll open it up for discussion after that. So whenever you're ready,
Do
Ms.
you want me to just
Hamilton.
read them all one after the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Ordinance number 2025-16, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Market S10, 310, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-17, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Cleveland 4782, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-18, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Cleveland 2695, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-19, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Cleveland 2775, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-20, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Burbank 4900, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-21, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Burbank 4855, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment. Ordinance number 2025-22, an ordinance declaring the improvement to certain parcels within the city, an area herein referenced as 2025 TIF Burbank 4147, to be a public purpose and exempt from taxation pursuant to ORC 5709.40B, providing for the collection and deposit of service payments and specifying the purposes for which those service payments may be expended and allowing for immediate enactment.
Thank you. Mr. Abernathy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Good evening, Jonathan.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to my fellow council members. I'm sure there are some additional questions, comments. So I'll just say, who wants to open it up? Ms. Knappich.
I just want to answer Mr. Owen's question. It's my understanding that if the city has the money from the TIFs and the projects do not go forward, then the money stays in a fund. Ultimately, that money can in fact be transferred into the general fund, which is what they've recently done in Chicago. So it does not go back to the schools.
Thank you.
Under
Yes, Jonathan.
Under the provision that we're utilizing, if we do not utilize these funds under this division, we have to return them. We have operated one parcel TIF previously, which is the reconstruction of Long Road. So if you're traveling up 585, you take a right onto Long Road going past Gojo Industries. All of that roadway was reconstructed utilizing a parcel TIF, same mechanism as we've utilized here. And incidentally, it turned out that that project was able to be completed and fully funded over the course of 7 years. So the remaining 3 years, that TIF fund continued to accrue those redirected revenues, but then those revenues were repaid back to the school district, to the county, and to the other taxing districts. So with the provision that we're working with here, the expectation is that either these funds go to support new infrastructure, and it has to be new, or the maintenance thereof of that new infrastructure that's encouraging new future development that builds up the tax base. And if that does not happen, or if that infrastructure can be done and we obtain grants and we obtain other financing and we don't need all of that, then those monies get returned to their respective taxing districts.
Is that under the provision that we would be operating, or is that a legal requirement that it be returned back, or is it an option?
The only other option would be to identify other new construction projects that would be appropriate for those general areas that we're talking about. So you could have an alternative project, but you would have to, again, justify that this is going to be new construction, and the spirit of the program is to be able to help generate a stronger tax base. But if you do not do that, as was the case with Long Road, we just simply remit the money back to the schools and to the counties. And there's another portion, about 6%, that would go into the general fund.
So, okay, so some of it does go back into the general fund. And again, is it mandatory that it be returned back to the other tax-based entities, or?
Correct, yes, it is. Only the portion the only portion going into the general fund is the portion that would have gone into the general fund but for the TIF. Because while TIF redirects 75% of revenues, it's also redirecting 75% of the revenues that would have gone into the city's general fund. On the commercial projects, around 5 to 6% of the revenues that are on that tax bill go into the city's general fund, so that portion also gets redirected into the TIF fund.
Is that a time frame too, that has to happen within?
As soon as you would make that decision that, hey, these funds are not being spent, part of the TIF process is TIF will, it's similar to the CRAs and EZs in terms of you have a TIRC council reviews it, except for you review it a couple different times. There's a tax incentive review council that'll look at what funds have been expended from those funds, what infrastructure has been delivered, and so each year, school districts, the county auditor, and other partners weigh in and provide comments to that tax incentive review process. The other times that council touches it is in the budget process, because every single TIF gets its own item within the budget and gets called out. So again, that is tracked on an annual basis as well. Further, whenever the funds are actually to be utilized for a project, so say council decides to enact these TIFs, then later on decides, okay, we're ready to support the Kidney Roundabout project. Again, it's clarified that, okay, a portion of TIF funds would be used for that. Again, if it turns out that we do not utilize those funds, or at any time council wishes, the TIF can always be closed and sunset.
Mr. Myers, did you want to jump in?
I was just asking if he recalled the amount of projects that they've listed as potential for this TIF funds. It would seem to me there's millions and millions of dollars of potential projects, and this is 1.5, so it's not like they're going to not find a place to spend it where it's going to go back to the schools. It's going to get spent. There's just, I don't know, was it $10 million, $15 million worth of stuff you guys had listed?
There's approximately about $10 million of infrastructure called out in the
Chances of
comprehensive
not
plan.
spending 1.5 on one of those and having the money go back to the schools is about 0.
And if the projects go forward, though, actually, we've talked about this before, council ultimately holds purse strings, and, you know, the council could say no to all these projects. And if that would happen, then it wouldn't get done. I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but ultimately, this is a council decision on how those funds are used and whether those funds are applied towards those projects.
So with Long Road, which again is the most recent example, it's been quite some time. As that TIF expired, going into year 10, as that TIF closed, we needed to have all those accounts satisfied at that time. So in terms of like a time frame, it would be no more than 10 years that all of that would have to be set in place. If the TIF, reaches its termination and, the city was still holding on to funds at that point, it needs to remit it back to all of the taxing entities that had funds redirected from it.
You might not know this off the top of your head, so I don't want to put you under, but the TIF that we previously did a few years ago, that did the 2 roundabouts and the infrastructure improvements up by the high school for those developments. My understanding is that one property development there across from the ice arena is fairly built out. That was an $8.6 million TIF. How far are we along the lines, since that's been built out, I think, faster than some of the projections? Where are we with ending that, wrapping it up, getting our 8.6 back, and fully funding the schools again?
So as far as the period where we would be looking at for the schools, without any further development, although we have additional development planned, we'd be looking at approximately 23 years. When we take a look at the original study, we had a 30-year program, and the infrastructure plan moved ahead, and now we have Weaver Custom Homes developing a property as well. So at this point, we would anticipate reaching that 8.7 repayment period sometime in the next 17 to 20 years. We'll have to ultimately see how those numbers come in, but that is what we're looking at right now. And then in our Tax Incentive Review Council report, we broke it down, that specific development, and then you'll see this following year, a second one for the other development taking place, looking at their contributions and how that affects the timeline going forward. But that's something that, for all of these, we will have to, or, well, we will want to, would recommend, that we keep a similar trajectory printed, published, and in place. That's something I would hope our Tax Incentive Review Council would want to look at. I think that's important for our schools to see, too, that what infrastructure is being delivered, and is that infrastructure indeed leading to an increase in revenues versus having done nothing? Welcome.
So I'm getting a couple of different messages from people contacting me in the last week or two. And one is from the business side. So there have been some prominent business folks in the city of Worcester that are extremely concerned over this. They see 7 TIF zones, and they're using the word abuse of this type of financing. Because I think we're used to seeing, here's a TIF zone for a very specific project, let's vote on this for this project, and they're seeing 7. And even though it's not a huge amount of money, this is a significant change in direction from what we've seen. And so how would you address that, hey, we've had these other zones before for very specific projects that frankly, we can point to what they were doing, providing infrastructure for much-needed housing here in the city of Worcester. How would you address a business owner who's saying, those were absolutely needed because we needed the housing, why are you now dumping 7 all at once for a relatively small amount of money, and just and address just this idea that we're potentially abusing this program?
So to that critique, I would say there are 3 specific projects that our comprehensive plan has identified that, going through that community process, there's the opportunity to encourage significant redevelopment, reinvestment, as well as support additional new development. So in that regard, this is a way to deliver infrastructure faster, and by delivering infrastructure faster, that means that we can encourage development on a shorter time frame. That puts additional revenues into the hands of not only city government, but also county government, as well as our schools, versus having done nothing. That is, again, what we're doing is we're making an investment in infrastructure in order to support additional development, encourage appreciation of commercial development that helps to build that tax base up. And in doing so, that minimizes the burden on existing business and existing taxpayers.
So let me come back to you real quick. I want to just add this, though. There is going to be a point, though, and let me say this is my opinion. This is my opinion, there will become a point where there's going to be TIF exhaustion. And what if we have another major project from a major developer who wants to come in and wants to utilize this program, and the public's just had it because we just passed 7 new TIFs, and they come to you and say, hey, we want to build 200 houses, but we need infrastructure help, and we need this money, and the schools are going to be looking at you like, you've taken money here, you just took another $1 million from us, and you're going to take, another several million from us over here. There's going to be TIF exhaustion here at some point. So I think there's concern from some folks that want to do business in this city, that are looking to the future, that man, you're dropping 7 TIFs, and when the future comes that they may want to take advantage of this program, suddenly, there might not be an appetite to be able to use that program.
So there are 2 points. One, some of the concerns that some communities face from businesses is that when there are communities that start looking towards TIF, there's concern that, opportunities like CRA and enterprise zone might be going away. Dublin, which has 41 different TIFs, for instance, has a policy that they no longer use CRA, but for projects that have a direct public service aspect to it. That's not what we're talking about. Our environment's a little bit different. There's still going to be a need to have CRA or enterprise zone on those, again, basic sector, very strategic projects. When it comes to continuing to utilize TIF for something along the lines of additional development, again, it comes down to an understanding of what TIF is looking to accomplish, and that is, this is not looking to just simply take revenue to do some infrastructure and yay, some money came out of thin air. These are real revenues paid for by people's hard-earned treasure, but it is being redirected into infrastructure as an investment that's supposed to pay a permanent dividend. So that developer who wants to do additional housing in the future, again, would have that same pro forma. Hey, with this revenue, we forego X amount, but by doing that, we're able to increase long-term revenues many more fold.
Then I'm going to come back to you on this, is that the schools cannot pass a levy. And if we're going to keep, and I get it, they're going to keep 100% of current, and they're going to get 20%, 25% of new. But if we don't do a TIF, they get 100% of current and 100% of new. And if they're trying to build a new building and try to get these young people into a newer, safer building and build a full campus or near campus so that they can get everybody kind of consolidated and into safer buildings, the more and more we continue to TIF, the more and more the people are saying, and I get it, if the schools can't respond, they can't respond, but the city keeps peeling back 75%, and then here's another 75%, and then we vote on another TIF, and there's another 75%, and yeah, there's 25% trickling in, but then they keep coming back for a levy, and the voters just like, we're not passing a levy. It hasn't been close. So that's my biggest concern, is that we want to, and I totally get why you want to use a TIF. It's a great tool. But I'm concerned about the timing. Our school is trying to get a building built. And this is, I think it's really a bad look when the school is struggling so mightily to get that financing, and here we are saying, here's 25% when you could be getting 100%. I think that's just a bad look.
So in reality, again, going into the details, a lot of these projects, the schools will be earning around 80% of those revenues. So this is not a flat 25%. It is a 25% tax revenue that comes in on property taxes, and then there's another reimbursement in some cases where we're sharing revenue of 60, 70% additional funds coming in from shared income tax. So that's going to vary from project to project. That's why each of those had those detailed pro formas, because there will be revenues that get shared, very similar to our enterprise zone program. So we'll say, very commonly, we'll hear it said that, hey, this is just an exemption, it doesn't cost anything. But what's happening in reality is, for some of our major projects, the city of Worcester is taking its income tax and it's paying the full difference of that tax cut to the school district, so they are held harmless from that. So they will not be completely held harmless in all of this, but again, the purpose of this is to generate additional revenue. So on average, Worcester City School District has gained, because of city infrastructure, $600,000 annually because of new construction as a result of city infrastructure, city policies, and services that make that possible. We're asking to take $120K of that average $600 to reinvest it into more infrastructure So we can take that 600K, make it 800K to make them more solvent. So it is, again, an investment looking into how this moves forward.
So, Jonathan, you kind of touched on it already. So the way we've used TIF before, you mentioned Long Road, and we know we have Oak Hill with the Spring Run development, and then Mechanicsburg and Silver Road because of the Clear Creek development. So we've used TIF before for new properties coming in to the city essentially, and we're taking county roads and making them city-worthy, right? This, to me, is breaking that system by we're doing infill projects. We're doing items off of our wish list from the comprehensive plan, not something we necessarily need, with the extension of Riffle Road, sure. And you already mentioned that so if we're going to take property tax to fund infrastructure, which we already fund infrastructure from our general fund anyways, what's the point if we turn around and remit some income tax back to the school system? I'm just having a hard time seeing why we're doing this now and what the purpose is. And I understand we're going to lose some potential grant funding or whatnot, but CDBG funding is essentially Ward 1 funding. We're not doing exclusively Ward 1 projects here. So, I know I threw a lot at you. But.
Yeah, no, and CDBG is just one example. We can utilize that for certain critical infrastructure projects. When we're taking a look at some of the developments like around the hospital district, which is more than 50% LMI but doesn't hit CDBG criteria yet, we run into different programming there that we have to take a look at. But similar to downtown, what we're looking at is an opportunity to increase that tax base again, because the more that we can encourage redevelopment, the more revenues that the schools, as well as county and as well as our general fund, earns. And so that means that when levies have to be brought, a smaller amount can be asked for. Now, as far as remitting income tax and so forth, there is still, utilizing TIF, there is still a benefit to the city in being able to reutilize and capture enough funds to support some of this infrastructure in a meaningful way. So that is why that's still an option that we felt appropriate to share. So when we're looking at all of the investment and time that we put into something like the Community Development Block Grant Program, again, we felt that this was an appropriate tool to at least analyze and bring forward for proposal as we're watching our peers increasingly utilize this as well, and being able to deliver great infrastructure for their communities as a result.
Yeah, and I think our infrastructure is great, and I think the city admin team does a great job with it. I don't want to minimize that in any way. I just, as far as I've been aware my whole life, the schools are funded with property tax and the city's funded with income tax, and I feel uncomfortable breaking that system. I know some of the county schools have already broken that system. That's a different story, but I have a hard time with it in this instance, especially with the points Mr. Abernathy made regarding, we want our local school system to also feel healthy, and who knows what's going to happen with property tax down the road. And then one last point real quick. So specifically, why is the Apple Creek Bank not proposing a CRA or bringing that before us for their project?
I'm sorry, the CRA?
Yeah, the downtown one.
I'll be happy to speak with you about that offline, but with any development, there's a review of all incentives that we have a conversation with. So
Okay.
in this case, TIF is a very appropriate way to be able to provide some infrastructure that benefits that specific site. We've had other community banks that have also developed, they have not needed tax incentive to do that. What's unique about this location, however, is that it doesn't have the streetscape elements that other places do, and they're making a foray to help expand our downtown further.
Yeah, and that's fine. We could talk more about it. It just seems like the perfect project, being a local bank moving their HQ here. A little different than a bank branch to me.
One of the problems with utilizing CRA in certain circumstances would be if you're relocating employment from one community to another. So that's where CRA becomes a little bit nebulous to utilize. The spirit of the program, again, is to try to support net employment benefits for the state. Now, we do take a look at downtowns, and we say this is an area that is losing value, and in order to retain that and grow that area, CRA is an appropriate application there. But at the same time, one of the things that we looked at when we did our economic strategic plan was to examine our diversity of our tool set. And so when we're using only tax exemption, where we're giving away the tax breaks and there's not a public investment coming back, again, there's a time and a place for that, but there's also a benefit of utilizing something like TIF, where you're able to have everybody paying the same tax rate as the other banks and other neighbors are, and at the same time be able to utilize those funds in a strategic manner. In this case, streetscape and improving and expanding our downtown that generates long-term revenues for everybody. So that also, for a lot of projects, TIF is attractive because you might be looking at an infrastructure expense. So instead of taking a tax break where I'm going to have reduced taxes for the next 10 years, hey, I can have some infrastructure taken off my back up front. That saves me money. I don't need to finance that. Or in this case, if it's something that's extra and above beyond what that developer would normally be expected to do, it's still an added benefit to help accentuate that project and help pull that into the fabric of downtown.
Point well taken. It just seems to fit the applications that we've seen before and would be a no-brainer.
Mr. Miller, you mentioned previously that the law does not require approval from certain other entities, kind of like we had with the TIF we did at Oak Hill, that, the school board signed off. I think the county, you did a lot of work on that, and I know we had people that were involved, our partners, they signed off on it. You mentioned that this, because it's 75% in 10 years, that nobody has to sign off on it. If it were a higher percentage or longer, do those partners have to sign off like they did before?
They do. We are required, and we started having discussions months ago to get comment on these approaches. I know there were some comments said that there's some legal issues that the school is not able to provide comment. That is not true. We have had a very good relationship with the school district for multiple years. We've had lots of feedback. Sometimes it's informal, sometimes it has been formal.
But they would have to, the school board would have to vote and would have to approve it if it were over 75%?
If going over 75% or 10 years, approval of the school district is required, and also in certain cases, the county commissioners would also have to consent to anything, they have to consent to a portion of anything over 75% in their case.
Then I guess my recommendation will be, let's make it 80% for 12 years and see what those people have to say. Because you're just trying to slide it in without asking, without getting their permission. Let's ask them, let's get written permission. And then I might, be more interested.
Well,
I mean, 75% for 10 years is good. 80% for 12's got to be better. That's,
Well, that would be helpful for the project. One of the things that we examined was, should we take a look at a model similar to a 30-year 100% TIF, which is the most common type of TIF in the state of Ohio. So most communities will do a similar arrangement like this, but it's 100%, 30 years, no income tax sharing, but a higher percentage of the tax revenues up front. So that does a couple things. It provides some additional revenues for the city. It's a little bit easier to manage because now we don't have to track income tax. We don't have to share that. It sounds pretty good. The only problem is that you're on a longer time frame now. So most of those projects end up going out to a large bond financing. And so when that happens, much of the citizens' tax revenue then gets gobbled up into interest fees with banks. So when we examined that and we're talking with the schools about, hey, could there be a possibility of a master agreement, we found that the framework that the state of Ohio gives us through the Ohio Revised Code, the default framework, works really well for our situation, because if you're just looking for a shot in the arm to deliver good quality infrastructure, you don't need to take it 30 years, and you don't need to invest it all on interest. And at the same time, what that ends up doing is it provides us with the ability to utilize those funds, move forward quickly, and then get our partners back to full 100% revenues faster, and again, having that area develop to produce additional revenues that would not have developed in the first place.
So I think what Mr. Myers is getting at is, instead of writing the line where we don't need their permission, I think he's saying, why would we skate just under that line? Why wouldn't we want to get their permission and make it just really a real collaborative process so that, hey, there is no mistaking, the school supports it. Okay, we have no problem supporting it at that point. We're all on the same team.
So at this point, we have asked for a comment, and we've shared what we feel are the benefits to the program and to the improvements that that provides. I cannot compel a comment, but that being said, we keep that door open always. One of the other tools that we've utilized is Wooster Growth, where we have taken certain incentives, if we're dealing with, say, tax exemption. That's a way to have a separate body where we have the schools involved, provide some feedback.
Did this go under that?
But even in that situation, we've had cases where the schools have said, we abstain and we're not providing comment. So that's, again, one of the things that we're taking a look at is what is going to be able to, we have a comprehensive plan that our citizens provided us with plans for infrastructure and meaningful development. We have a tool that we feel that can be very advantageous to making that happen on a faster time schedule. And we see mathematically how that could be a very strong benefit, not only to the city, the county, but to our school district partners as well, especially when, again, our city infrastructure has a tendency to create $600,000 of brand new revenue, and that compounds each year. At this point, since 2010, 23% of the tax collections in the city of Worcester for Worcester City Schools is because of new construction that has happened since 2010. Without that, that 23% would have to either be cut, it's approximately $9 million of the $39 million raised, or that would have to be levied onto individual homeowners and other businesses. So from a city standpoint, our role is to take a look at the tools that the state makes available. We communicate that. We ask for comments. In recent years, we've not received comments, whether it's regarding TIF or even tax exemption. But that's, the one exception being Oak Hill, because that materially involved the school district. And also, too, that infrastructure benefited that specific campus as well.
Okay. Any additional comment or questions?
I just wanted to ask you, can you cite to me the section of law that you were talking about that we would be actually operating under? There are several
We're going to,
sections.
specifically 5709.40B. So there are many different ways that TIF can be enacted and qualified. You have parcel TIFs, you have TIFs that cover larger neighborhood areas, TIF that is available strictly for residential, TIF that can be applied to residential development in blighted areas in which you can utilize TIF to help a developer finance private housing. That would probably be something that would be applicable, say, in Worcester's Arts District, if the opportunity ever arose. But the most common route for what we're talking about in this case is infrastructure specifically. So this is a little bit different from the residential, where we qualified it based on the new proposed development. That specific infrastructure was not sufficient to meet that demand. When we're taking a look at 570940B, what we're looking at in that instance is the ability to benefit a general area with new infrastructure.
Ms. Warden?
Thank you. To play devil's advocate to a comment by Mr. Abernathy earlier, I would just say that I'm not sure that all voters were opposed to the school levy purely based on their taxes. I think that there's also an underlying feel that people disagree with the school's assessment that they need rebuilding. So I wouldn't throw my eggs in that basket. I would also like to say, or ask, this is a hypothetical, but if you could please clarify, Jonathan, what we would be prepared to do in the event that changes to property tax laws are made at the state level, and that ceases to be a form of funding that we can utilize. Would these TIFs then be obsolete? Would everything that we've collected thus far have to be returned, and how would that look?
So from a practical standpoint, with what we think may be coming down the pipe, there have been multiple proposals. One of them is freezing what's called the inside millage rate. So there's two types of tax millage. One is you can think of as a dynamic rate, and then another one's like a flat tax rate. So no matter what your property's worth, 10 mils of that, at least in the city of Worcester limits, is always going to be assessed. The others will decrease if your property value goes up. And then you have other portions that if the property value, if we had another Great Recession, your property tax can actually increase because of how that millage is dynamic. And that did happen in many cities in Ohio during the Great Recession. So should tax millage be frozen, over time you could see an erosion of the benefit of what TIF would provide. And if you got to the point where, hey, the benefits are not that significant. Now, mathematically, there would be a benefit here, over the next 10 years in that scenario. But again, at any given time, council could, whether as part of the budget process, looking at a specific TIF budget or taking a look at TIRC comments, say, hey, you know what? We don't really need funds for this specific TIF project. We can cancel it, and any funds that we haven't utilized goes back to the schools, and we cease to collect on that TIF. There's another proposal that has been talked about, extremely simple proposal that says that the state of Ohio shall not do any property taxation. So if that were to pass, the next question on that comes into play: would there be court challenges? Is that even legal? Certainly that would eliminate the ability to collect additional taxes going forward under that manner. Again, that's a proposal that is out there, and we'll see if that makes it forward. But if it did, in order to accommodate the current level of services that we have at both the state level and local levels, you'd be looking at a unbelievably high sales and income tax that would be essentially catastrophic. So that again would affect all of our programming. Again, about 15% of our budget for the general fund is reliant on property taxation. So for the most part, the city would probably be in an okay spot. A lot of our other partners at the county and the school would, be making pivots. And it's certainly possible as we look at the future that, we will see some changes in tax structures over time. But looking 10 years out, looking at some modest changes and some modest appropriate tax reform, this would still be a good vehicle to delivering infrastructure. Again, the spirit being we want to open up areas for development, and we want to unlock areas like our hospital district so that they can redevelop to generate that additional revenue so that we lower the tax demand on everybody else.
I have one additional question, please, Jonathan. This is something that you and I discussed earlier today on the phone, and I thought it was interesting. So if you wouldn't mind briefly touching on, one of the incentives for this TIF financing being that we wouldn't be using bonds to pay for some of the projects that we are hoping to implement. And through those bonds, you mentioned that there's also interest that accumulates so that the cost is actually more significant than we're looking at.
Yes, so like if we're looking at a model where, hey, we'll take we'll share more of the property tax revenues, but go for a longer term, a lot of that gets devoured by interest at that point, because in order to program some of this infrastructure looking 30 years out, at that point you're essentially mortgaging elements, and so more of that funding that we're collecting from all of us, from every taxpayer, you, me, and everybody listening, goes to support interest on that bond. Maybe that infrastructure is delivered and we're enjoying it. That is the situation that we are in with Oak Hill. Sometimes that's necessary depending upon the scope of the project. However, for these projects that we've taken a look at through the comprehensive plan, while we do look at a large overall figure for each one, these are more manageable sized projects. So we're looking at about $3 million for the bulk of these, between the hospital district, between doing additional work up with Riffle Road extension. So these are things that can be programmed, brought in where we can, if we can utilize additional grant funds. When we are looking at these projects, we're approaching it kind of like a developer. We're looking at a capital stack. So a capital stack being I'm going to have funding from the general fund. I'm maybe going to be able to leverage some jobs and commerce funds from the Ohio Department of Transportation, which are increasingly becoming more complex and competitive. And then, TIF might be the thing that helps us with our application to say, hey, we have some secured funding for this. And all these things together, we can make a go of that project and get it delivered.
Mr. Jose?
Yeah, so you mentioned the hospital area as one that's ripe for redevelopment. So why wouldn't we look at expanding the CRA zone up that area? I mean, we've already expanded it 2 or 3 times before.
So we have
as an alternative
talked about,
method.
we've had that talked about in our current CRA housing study. So if we take a look at that, you'll see some discussion on why this area, might be appropriate for that. And it still very well might be. I mean, if there is some sort of opportunity to support research and development, there could be an argument for creating a CRA at that location. That would probably be something that would be separate from our current CRA. It would practically need to be its own CRA 2, if you will. But there has been thought given to that.
Be contiguous.
No, so you would have a completely independent CRA for that hospital district in that case.
Sure.
You could make it contiguous, but there would have to be some justification that we did not see in the data at the time that we looked at it. And again, that'll change each year that the auditor is doing the reappraisals and reassessments. But could CRA be beneficial up there? Yes. The problem with CRA, though, is we're taking a look at the types of developments that we have right now are non-basic sector. So these are businesses that are incentivized to develop because they are selling specifically to Worcester area customers. So they want to be in the region. Maybe they want to be in the hospital district. Maybe they want to be on the north end. Maybe we can encourage them, though, to make a bigger investment in the hospital district if there was less congestion and more access and more travel through there, which could be enabled with some of the infrastructure that our comprehensive plan talks about. So, unlike a CRA, where it's a tax break, there are no monies returned either for infrastructure or no monies going into the classroom. You do have, some private development that takes place. You would really want to see something, though, that would be of the nature of a research and development. And to that regard, we do have enterprise zone here. So, again, CRA and enterprise zone share the same code. Any other place in the United States, CRA is known as enterprise zone. But that would be available there today for that basic sector headquarter type project that, again, the majority of their customers and the majority of their income comes not from the county but from outside of the state. That's generally the test that the state's looking for with that. And we could, again, with our partnerships with Jobs Ohio, hopefully leverage some additional assistance to make that happen. But for these smaller projects that are taking place, when we take a look at, say, the TWG development that would have some traffic flowing through here, this would be a good opportunity to utilize a project that's already being supported with tax credits, tax revenues, to be able to recapture some of that and support that with additional infrastructure in this location. Again, allowing that to be funded at a faster rate sooner and less interest than we would be looking at if we were going a traditional bond route and a much longer repayment term.
And Mr. Doherty, does the city still offer income tax reciprocity?
So we offer credit, yes, up to 100% if you, yes.
Okay. My point being, there's other options than this one before us. And I'd rather pillage from our own citizens before pillaging from the school system.
Well, the school system and the city citizens are a mutual taxpayer. So
Not necessarily, because there's
you have a few people
folks who are not the same.
The vast majority of Worcester City school residents are also city residents. You do have some that live outside city limits, but again, when we're taking a look at school district revenues, we are keeping in mind that these are also our taxpayers, and so we want to be careful of what we're asking. So we wouldn't be making this proposal if we didn't feel that there would be a strong return for them, both on the school side and on the city side. If it's going to damage either one or the other, then that would not be a good proposal to bring forward.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Before I close it out, Mr. Malta, you have anything you want to add tonight? Mr. Gaffey?
Just as I was looking over these, I know one of the things that we talk about is the revenue, or the sharing of employment tax, right? And several of these on the statements, it looks like the amount of payroll taxes, some of them are listed as zero in terms of what the shareable amount is going to be.
Correct.
I just wanted to point that out because I know that was one of the benefits of doing these. And it looks like on several of these projects that's not even it's not something to factor in, I guess, as we're thinking through some of the stuff.
Yes, so when, and this applies for anything that involves TIF, or if we're talking CRA or enterprise zone as well, when payrolls for new employees are at $1 million, which would, for us, equate to $15,000 of income tax. Once $15,000 of income tax is achieved from new people who have not previously been employed in the city of Worcester the previous 2 years, those are considered new people under the state of, under Ohio law, and that's seen as a gain. And so the state's prescription is, hey, communities, cities, or, and it really would be cities in this case, if you are levying an income tax and you have that return, we want you to then share that 50/50 with the schools, unless you make one of these alternative 30-year arrangements. That happens at that threshold of $1 million. So for a gas station, you're unlikely to have $1 million payroll, so you'll see that zeroed out in that case, because honestly, as we're taking a look at it, we're probably not going to see $1 million of payroll out of that in a given year. A lot of other projects, if we're dealing with restaurants, if we're dealing with some of the other non-basic commercial, we're probably very easily going to be well over that threshold, and so that's where the ask goes from 75% to ineffective, in some cases, 30%. So again, it's going to depend on how much these sites actually develop, not just in property tax, but income tax, and those two things together as a whole, and then those are shared.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that $1 million threshold is helpful as we look at all of this.
Okay. So can I do a blanket, or would you prefer me to go one by one and leave them where they're at?
Or you just say, we're going to leave them on second reading, third reading next
Yeah,
meeting?
you don't have to do anything for that.
So I'll give you a blanket on 2025-16 through 22. We will leave it on second reading.
All right, well, a lot of good discussion.
I want to just say real quick, thank you, Jonathan, again. You're a good man. If the city of Worcester needs to send somebody to go before Congress, you're the guy.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
Like, the good news is that whatever ultimately council decides, these are funds that are going to a public purpose, so these will be spent in a good manner whichever way you go.
But I do appreciate you come well prepared. For the second meeting in a row, you've taken a lot of questions and taken some grief, and you've done it with a smile, so I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Well done.
I got one more after this.
It's not over.
All right. We'll move on to new business, which at this point is Resolution 2025-65, but Ms. Hamilton, you please read it for us.
Resolution number 2025-65, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Transportation to participate in the Transportation Alternatives Program, to accept and apply such funds if awarded, and to execute any necessary documents in connection therewith, and allowing for immediate enactment.
Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, this is a request to apply for funding through ODOT's Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP, and if awarded, enter into agreement with ODOT to accept the funding and execute any additional documents or agreements with ODOT that are required. These funds would be designated for the construction of shared-use paths along Venture Boulevard and the connection of Clear Creek Park and Walton Woods to existing paths in the area. The project would add 1.25 miles of shared-use paths to the city's existing network. Projects are estimated to cost $900,000. If awarded, the TAP funding would cover up to 80% of the cost. The project isn't even slated until 2029, but the application for this is due November 30th. There is no cost to apply, so I feel like we're really off the hook for this, and we'll try to make it easy on Jonathan since he's done so much work already. So I'm going to move to suspend the rules and place this on third and final reading.
I'll second.
Motion to suspend rules, seconded by Mr. Abernathy. Ms. Hamilton, please call the roll on the suspension of the rules.
Ms. Warden?
Yes.
Mr. Abernathy?
Yes.
Mr. Huzay?
Yes.
Ms. Knappich?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffey?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Malta?
Yes.
Ms. Warden,
Move to adopt.
motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Abernathy. Ms. Hamilton, please call the roll on the adoption.
Mr. President, I had a
Yes.
quick question. Am I crazy, or is this in the exact area that we could have TIFed to get this project funded as well, down the street from the Clear Creek development?
I think that you're talking about the other 10% to match it.
Can you explain that further? for me?
So we do have a TIF in this location.
Yeah.
And there would be a match that would be required. And the TIF that is in place could potentially support that, because that particular neighborhood has no connection today to the rest of the city. This would actually provide walkable connection to that neighborhood, to the city, and also take Clear Creek Park and our Walton Woods and connect that to the rest. The other fun fact is, out of the 90% that would be funded, a good portion of that also gets funded through the Ohio Turnpike revenues that come in, and it's an opportunity for us to participate in that as well.
And you thought you were off the hook.
I hope it's good news, but.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Ms. Hamilton, please call the roll on the adoption then.
Ms. Warden?
Yes.
Mr. Abernathy?
Yes.
Mr. Huzay?
Yes.
Ms. Knappich?
Yes.
Mr. Gaffey?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Malta?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution is approved. We'll move on to miscellaneous. At this point, we'll start with Mr. Gaffey this evening.
All right. No, I just really appreciated reading the Citizens Academy comments, so thank you for sharing that. There's some very good comments about our community, and even in the section about what do you like least about the city of Worcester, there's some good constructive comments in there as well, so definitely appreciate that. Thank you to all the prospective, or all the candidates that are here tonight. Good luck tomorrow, and that's about it for me.
Okay. Ms. Warden?
Thank you again, Jonathan, for all of the work, not only that you did, in the preceding meeting, this meeting, but all the work that you have put into preparing each one of these ordinances, because it's definitely time-consuming and requires a great deal of knowledge, which we're very fortunate to have you. I would just also like to wish the best of luck to everyone who's up for election tomorrow, and I hope everyone exercises their right to vote. Thank you.
Mr. Malta?
As always, thank you all for attending, and all those that are viewing. And, yeah, go out and vote. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Huzay?
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. You're a great sport. Hope everybody had a good Halloween and is getting out to vote tomorrow. That is all.
Mr. Abernathy?
Obviously, good luck to our candidates here in attendance. Tomorrow, I believe it was just a couple years ago, I was on the edge of my seat, so I know how you guys are probably feeling. It'll just get ramped up tomorrow, so good luck to all of you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it's starting to get real, that we're just a few meetings away where we're not going to have Mr. Myers or Ms. Knappich here anymore. And I would just want to say that I've learned a lot from you guys. I appreciate the mentorship. And, it's not going to be the same without having you guys. I know I still got a few more meetings with you, but it's starting to set in, and it kind of stinks. But, we got some fresh faces coming along, and, hopefully I'll be able to impart some wisdom that you guys have given to me over the last couple of years. So thank you for what you've done and how you've served the city. That's all I've got.
Ms. Knappich?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Can't speak for Mr. Meyer, but it's been my pleasure and my honor to be sitting here on council, very much so. And just a few more meetings, and that'll be it. So, but for tonight, I just want to say thank you for everyone who came, everyone who's watching. Good luck to the candidates tomorrow. Don't forget to vote, and be careful going home.
Mr. Myers?
Thank you, President Sanders. I want to thank Mr. Hill and Mr. Owens for coming this evening and speaking. I appreciated the comments you both made. And also, I'm really just grateful that I'm not worried about Wednesday this time, because it's been 3 elections that I've had to be in your shoes, those of you who are running for office. I do want to commend all of you for stepping up. I'm grateful for people being willing to take the responsibility and opportunity to help out, and wish you all the best, and I'm just glad I'm not in that shoe, in that case. I think the administration's glad I'm not, too. But anyway, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Very kind of you. Appreciate it.
Party.